I always try to introduce Ginger, just in case you've never been here before. She's a dear friend of mine. People are always like, what's Ginger talking about this week? I'm like,
I know. We don't know.
I have no idea.
It's courage.
But it'll be good.
Because every time Ginger talks, we all listen. So I always like to pray for her, because I know her well enough to know that she's a care for others specialist. Not so much always. I mean, Ginger is a great example that this is what she studies, and yet it's really hard to be on your own team sometimes. So I'm just going to pray for you, and then we'll let Ginger take it from there.
Beautiful.
All right? Well, God, we're just thankful. I feel like this has it's become like a monthly sacred space, God, where we can take a couple deep breaths and not be afraid to not have it all together. We're thankful for the permission to not have it all together sometimes.
Yes.
So just be with Ginger. God, I know she takes this calling so seriously, because I get to watch it up close. And but sometimes when you're the person for carrying other people, God, it can get tiring. So I just pray that you'll continue to give her good boundaries and discernment for your best yes. And God, would you give us that in this room today too? Just give us little metaphorical little taps on the shoulder when you have something for us that might be really important for us or for somebody else in our life. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brooke. Yeah. That prayer was as if you know me. Thank you.
I've talked to you a couple times.
I needed it. Okay, the video is going.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. We'll edit out that part. All right. Hi, everybody. We're talking about courage today. So the way this group kind of formed was the end of last year. I just asked the question. We gathered. Brooke had this vision for coffee and conversation, and I said, "What's hard about being a human in 2023?" And you gave me a great list of things that are hard. And one of those things on that list, we talk about a different one every month. But last month we talked about peace, and the other thing on the list was being more courageous. It's hard to be courageous in a scary world, and lots of things are hitting us all the time. And so I'm going to give you some tools today, because courage is something we can decide to have, but in my experience of working with people, I really see it's like a muscle we have to build. And a little bit of courage then gives us more courage and more courage, but it doesn't come naturally to us because of this guy in our brain. Whoops. Oh, no, back one. This is called, this little pink dot, that's your amygdala. That's your fear center. And though it is small, it really rules most of our lives. We live in fear a lot. And the reason courage doesn't come naturally to us is because the amygdala's job is to keep us safe. So never will the amygdala say, let's do this risky thing. Let's play it safe is what the amygdala always says, and warns us of a million things that could go wrong, because its job is to keep us safe and sound the alarms. Now, in the neuroscience, risky behavior declines drastically at age 25. We are risky until we're not. And it's like we get this, what's happening there is the prefrontal cortex, that top ridge in our brain, is not developed until we're 24 or 25 years old, and that's where all the rational thinking is. What is developed first, after the amygdala, is that kind of almond shape in the middle of our brain. That's the limbic system. That's the impulse center. That's the, I'm going to go after what I want, and nothing's going to stop me. In a teenager's brain, that is way more developed than the upper cortex. So that's where we see impulsivity and risky behaviors. But in our ages, that impulse to take a risk is almost all gone. And we just start living in fear from age 25 on. And risk is never fun to our brains anymore. So this is why, if you look back at your life, you can see where you took risky behaviors, where you had courage. And today you think, my gosh, in my 20s and in college, I had all this courage. I was so confident. I would do hard things and take risks. Where did that go? Where it went was just your brain grew. And you turned into an adult. So it's not that anything's wrong with you that you're not courageous. It's that clinically, you're less likely to take risks as we age. And the reason that this kind of work that we're going to talk about today about is important is because it can be learned. Courage can be a learned behavior, but we have to practice it. So I'm going to give you some tools today to work with your brain, because as we've all decided, life is brain management, really, and thought management. But this little pea-sized part of us should not rule us. But for many women I talk to, we live in tremendous amounts of fear, and we've gotten in the habit of fear instead of the habit of courage. Okay, so first I want to ask you, what do you wish you had the courage to do? If you would share with us, just list, let's make a list. What do we wish we had the courage to do?
Go back to school?
Yes, good one. What else?
Not care so much what others think.
Not care what others think.
And glide off a cliff.
Hand glide off a cliff. You're ready. I love that. Okay.
Speak up for ourselves.
Speak up for ourselves.
And others.
Yeah. Set reasonable boundaries.
Set reasonable boundaries. Oof, these are good.
We can be done. I think that's it.
That's a pretty good list of scary things. Yes. I captured them because I want to make sure we address all of these. I think we will today.
To fail.
To fail. Yes, to fail. So afraid to fail.
To have hard conversations.
Yep. Hard conversations. What else?
This is going to sound really wacky, but to dance in the middle of the church service at the gathering.
Yes, girl.
However,
Do it.
it may not be a good idea. But, I mean, my spirit wants to, and I don't. I mean, I move,
Exactly.
but I don't.
But then you shut it down.
That type of thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
we shut it down because people might see us, and what are they thinking?
Oh, they will see us.
They will see us. That's right.
And they'll thank you later.
They yes.
join you first.
That's
They'll
right.
thank you.
They'll be like, "Thank you, Susan, for going first, because then I could go."
Yes, that's exactly.
But we never want to go first. Yes, exactly. Oh, that's so good. Oh, you got it. You got it. Some great nuances there in what we're afraid of. Okay, so let's get into the tools. The first one is this idea of being brave-ish. So there's a researcher, Dr. Kristen Lee, has researched courage a lot. And she says the way to get to courage is to microdose it, which is a current term for taking a little bit, right? Of like just give yourself a little dose of a little bit of courage. Do something a little bit brave. And the word bravish actually came from Brooke's friend, Lindsay Erickson. She was in a class I was teaching here, and we were talking about, I forget what the topic was. What was our night class about, Brooke? That 3 series?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of this.
Aligning yourself,
yeah,
I think, or
yeah.
something. Yes. So I said, what? Oh, yeah, Stephanie was in there too.
Yeah.
And we said, what do you want to do? And she's like, I just want to be brave-ish. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a good word. And I liked that word better than microdosing bravery, which is the one that has been used. So I was like, I'm going with brave-ish. So Lindsay gets credit for that word. But it so fit, like doing these little things to build up our courage muscles. So I've got some ideas for you. This is the kind of stuff to just get a little bit brave, right? We'll add Susan's to the list of dance in church, because that's a good one. That might be a big brave. But
It's on there.
Yeah, is it?
Dancing like no one's watching.
Oh, perfect, yes. So these were in an email I sent out, and I just copied them into here for today. So yeah, dance like no one's watching, Susan. Perfect. Yeah, maybe it's asking for help. Maybe it's painting for the first time. What else comes to mind for you guys? Inviting somebody to do something with you. Reaching out after it's been a long time.
Opening up your heart.
Opening up your heart. Yeah, just little doses of bravery. Tiny, tiny things. It's how we get started. So what neuroscience tells us is if our brain's going to make a change, it loves baby steps. It feels safer when we go slow, not radical. And so when we set New Year's resolutions, we do these radical goals, right? And then we fail by February 15th. So the idea is to just do little baby steps when you're trying to set a goal or find courage. Not take on the whole enchilada. Our brain says, no, that sounds way too scary. But if we just say, oh, you know what, we're just going to go from here to here. We're going to, instead of going from 0 to 10, we're going to go 0 to 1, and then 1 to 2, and then 2 to 3. And this is how we get our brains to get a little braver. It's really not that hard, but it's management. It's like raising a child, right? We would say, let's ride the bike with training wheels for a while. Then we'd say, do you think you're ready to take them off? No. Okay, we'll go a little while longer. Hey, that's how you work with your brain, too. And then you say, I think you're ready. Let's try it today. Okay, let's take off the training wheels and I'll hold on to you. And this is how we coddle our brain into courage. Any other ideas that are coming to you in your own life? Something bravish you could do, maybe this week. Doesn't have to be super brave, just a little brave.
So is this something that we really would be helpful to set as a goal?
Mm-hmm. Just a little practice.
Every week it's put something on the calendar that says I do something
bravish.
That's
awesome. I love that. It doesn't have
that would be my goal.
Okay. Okay, perfect. That's your brave goal.
That's my brave goal.
Your bravish goal is to do something bravish. I love it. Yeah. So think about it. If it's not coming to you right now, let yourself just kind of, what's one little thing? Like one of my clients, her bravish thing was when my order comes wrong, I'm going to ask for it to be corrected. When my food order comes wrong, I'm going to ask for it to be corrected instead of just like, okay, I'll take it. I don't want to be too much of a burden, right? So I thought that was a good one. And so think about what scares you, what you would never do, and then see if you can just push yourself a little bit to do it. Okay. Okay, we'll go to the next tool. So this one is the idea of all things are difficult in life, really, right? Things are so difficult. So we kind of pick our difficult. So some examples of this. I brought my notes so I could remember. So like my son is a junior and he and his friends are talking about prom and they don't want to go. And so we're having this conversation of like, yes, asking somebody to prom is difficult. Regretting that you didn't go to your junior prom, is that going to be difficult? So like, which one do you want to pick, right? Or asking for a raise, that's difficult, that's scary. But going underpaid and getting resentful is also difficult. So like, pick your difficult, right? Getting a divorce is difficult. Staying stuck in a marriage is also difficult. Going back to school is difficult, but for not fulfilling a calling, that's really difficult, right? Not doing that for yourself is a difficult way to live. So do I take the difficult of going back to school, or do I take the difficult of living with not doing that? Right? So we kind of weigh our difficult. Not buying something I want is kind of difficult. I feel a little like, I should be able to get that. But then not having money in the bank is also difficult. Or paying a big credit card bill is really difficult. So then you can kind of stand in the store and be like, oh, wait a minute. I don't like this feeling, but there's also another difficult. And so I pick my difficult. Does that make sense? Okay. What are some examples coming to from your life?
when I was young, I wouldn't eat certain foods.
Yes.
That I just wouldn't eat them.
Yeah.
And I would sit at the table forever,
Yes.
rather than take a bite of whatever it was that I was supposed to eat.
Yes, I love it. So you pick your difficult. So then did you get in trouble or did you have to eat it cold or?
I just waited it out.
I'll play the role of your mother. So fighting with Anne is difficult. And being malnourished is difficult. Right?
Yeah.
Pick your difficult, Mom. You're going to just wait her out. I love
Waited it out.
I love it.
No dessert, didn't bother me.
So you picked your difficult. Eating the gross thing or missing dessert?
And it wasn't even really gross, probably. I ate it too. Back then, it was just the worst thing.
That's
I
a
could
great
think of.
example, Anne. Oh my gosh, I love it. So many human examples. What else?
I think for me, a lot of times it's like having a hard conversation or just something I don't want to have.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be as simple as like fixing something that other person did wrong or something
Yes.
like that.
Exactly.
My mom always called it choose your hard. Like you're
Yes.
gonna have to deal with it no matter
That's
what.
it.
So is your hard gonna be that you're gonna like just have to deal with the
Yeah.
negative that you don't want, or are you gonna have the
That's right.
conversation?
Pick your hard. I love that. That's right. Getting up to go to work on a winter day is hard. Being unemployed is hard. I mean, this is how we kind of like lay in bed. Choose your difficult, Ginger. Choose your difficult. Yeah. Any other examples from your life?
I work out really early in the morning, so the 4s are early.
Oh.
So I constantly have to weigh sleep and how I'm feeling
Yes.
versus being willing to get up at 4:30.
Exactly. So, yeah, Brooke, that's such a good one because, like, cooking healthy meals is hard. Getting up early to exercise is hard. It's also hard to have low energy and feel crappy. So, right? So then, like, okay, what am I going to pick here? So this builds courage in the sense that it sort of forces you to make a choice. It makes you look at choices. And the more we make choices, the more courageous we get in making decisions. Right? So it's actually kind of a good exercise of giving yourself options. Okay, you have 2 options. You don't get out of bed to work out, and you probably feel lethargic all day. But you've got options. You can choose. Right? And that starts to get our courage muscle built up where our brain said, let's do the hard thing. Come on, we can do the hard thing. And the more your brain is helping you do the hard thing, that becomes more of a default. Instead of all the resistance coming up in your brain, it's like an invitation of, we can do this. We can do this. Okay?
It also makes
Yes.
you live with intention.
Exactly. So much intention, Susan.
You're
It's
not
a great
just
point.
kind of floating through your day, you're intentionally choosing.
Such a good point.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Is
Love that.
sometimes the courage is understanding you are making a choice in that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times we don't understand as we go through life, float through life, that we are making a choice.
That's right. We are making a
So,
choice.
Yeah.
That's right. And in psychology, it's called agency, that you always have a choice. Always have a choice. We start to feel really trapped, like we don't have any options. You always have agency. And so what we see in mental illness is often forgetting your agency, right? Forgetting that I can help myself. So yeah, I'm so glad you guys brought up that point.
Ginger.
Yeah.
I think the worst things, the truly difficult things, are things you can't personally change.
Yeah, that's right. You can't,
You
it's
don't
out of your control.
Let him go.
Yeah, then you have to just kind of,
It's how you react to it.
That's
But
right.
you have no choice.
It's how we react to it, Judy. That's everything. That's right.
Your
And like,
choice really becomes your response.
yes, the choice
When
is your
you can't,
response.
Yeah.
When you can't control it. And so, accepting this is happening, I don't like it, I never would have chosen this, but what do I do now? That's right. Beautiful.
Another example I throw out is being a widow
Yes.
and losing your spouse. I mean, I remember the day where I just decided I was going to be happy. And it was
beautiful.
a decision, really.
It is a
Yeah.
decision.
She told me
Beautiful.
that day, this is my sister, She told me that day, so I've held her to it.
Yes. I love the accountability there. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, because you could live your whole life sad and wishing it wasn't what it is, right? We wish it away. Like, we spend our lives wishing it was different.
Right.
There's nothing we can do, right? We can't bring him back. So how would he want me to move on? And he would want you to be happy. Yeah, I love that decision to be happy. I'm done with this. Because what you did is realized it was self-torture, right? At this point, it becomes self-torture. And so then you could free yourself of that by saying, I'm not doing that to myself anymore. Oh.
And to others.
And to others. Exactly. That's the gift. That's the gift. Yep.
Of course, then you have a decision to make when you're alone and the alarm goes off.
Yes.
That's true.
The alarm, like the
In the burglar alarm. Yeah.
Oh, yes, the burglar alarm. Right.
Oh.
Pull the covers over your head.
We'll run out of the garage.
But maybe if we build courage, ladies, maybe we can handle that better.
Be bravish.
Be bravish. Like, maybe, yes. Go hit the numbers real quick. Okay, the next one is always hard. But we're going to practice disappointing people. I know. Oh, this one's so hard, but it's so liberating. It is so liberating if you can get over the fear of disappointing someone. Because what I see in working with women for about 7 years now, and men, but I really see this with women, is this fear of how that person's going to feel instead of my feelings.
Yes.
Right? So we are so afraid to disappoint somebody. And here's some things when I ask people their greatest fear. Here's the things I hear. Disappointing someone I love, being a disappointment, my family, parents or children being disappointed in me, feeling disappointed if it doesn't go the way I want it to, so then I won't even try, right? Because I'm so afraid it's not going to turn out. And disappointing myself. And I think when those are our greatest fears, we've got some homework to do, right? Because those are all feelings. We're afraid of a feeling. And sometimes I have to check in with myself on this, of like, what are you really afraid of? Oftentimes, it's a feeling I'm afraid of. Like, that's going to feel bad, or that's going to hurt, or that's going to hurt that person. But that's not a tangible impact. That's a feeling somebody's going to have. I'm imagining what they're going to have, or I'm imagining my feeling, and I'm scared of that feeling. But we all know we can manage our feelings, right? We can work through feelings. We all do that all day long. So then we have to kind of check into ourselves, like, why am I living so afraid of a feeling? Because that's really what disappointment is. And disappointment is a sadness that it's not what I expected it to be. That's all. I had a picture of what this would be. It's not turning out that way. And I'm sad. So if a friend is having a party and you're sick and you're trying to decide, like, do I push through this because it's important to her, it's her birthday, you're afraid you're going to disappoint her because she had this expectation you would be there, and now you're not going to be there, right? And so that is just a feeling. We're imagining that she's going to be sad. Well, she's going to be surrounded with her other friends. She's going to be just fine. And I need to care for myself. But how many times does that fear of disappointment make us do something we shouldn't do or don't want to do, right? And then maybe get resentful because we denied ourselves.
I think that
Yes.
particularly when it comes to disappointing others, a person has to have a very strong sense of self. You really need to know who you are to know you're making a choice for yourself instead of the other person.
Exactly.
And that's sometimes a roadblock to making the right choice.
Totally.
Yeah.
It comes back to self-worth. Like, you are worth saving, right? And you're right. A lot of us haven't developed that enough either.
That takes courage.
It takes courage. That's right.
But at the same time, you don't want to be a selfish individual, so there's that fine line.
That's right.
There.
There is that fine line. We're always kind of weighing that. Like, where's the line of loving the other person and loving myself at the same time, right? That's how we kind of weigh these things. Like, I love you and me, so what would be that decision? So that way I can hold love for both of us. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Don't you think that's kind of generational?
Yes,
We were brought up to serve others.
that's right.
There was no discussion when we grew up about me.
I know.
It was always about the other people.
Exactly.
But then the next generation is more make yourself happy first.
Yep. Yep.
So that's
It is a
big flip.
change. I know. And it's interesting because there's mixed reviews on how this is going to turn out, right? There's mixed reviews on where humanity is headed. However, I think that generations of women lived in a tremendous amount of resentment and bitterness and unhappiness that may be better for future generations. I think there's a tuning into not being resentful. How do I live resentment free? But it borderlines on when do I quit caring about others and only care about myself? So you're right. You're right.
There's a balance, surely.
There's a balance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I imagine the scale can tip too far the other direction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think of William Urey's work, the Getting to Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a book.
I remember that book.
Yeah.
Like in the 90s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just saw an interview with him again.
Oh, wow.
So, but yes, it's getting to yes so that I can keep my own agency.
Exactly.
And I'm trying to get to yes with the other person.
That's right. Get to yes for both people. That's great. That's great.
You can speak to too, Ginger, because you do it often about the healthy way to honor yourself and honor others, which is to me like the oxygen mask
Yes.
mentality. This isn't like a selfish,
That's right.
but it's a way of holding
Holding both.
each,
Exactly.
each hand.
So both are
And
mutually, yeah, the best relationships are mutually beneficial, right? We're both getting something out of this relationship. But when it becomes one-sided, either I'm giving everything to you or I'm holding everything for me, then the balance is going to get off. I want to read you an excerpt because that's perfect, Brooke, from Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed. She tells of this conversation, such a good book, by the way. She tells of a conversation with her daughter. So her daughter felt obligated as a freshman to join the same club her brother was in when he was in his junior year of high school. And she doesn't want to join it, but I think her son Chase had started the club and the sister was feeling like I should be part of this. So she said to her mother, but I don't want to disappoint him. And Glennon responded, listen, every time you're given a choice of disappointing someone else or disappointing yourself, your duty is to disappoint that someone else. Your job throughout your entire life is to disappoint as many people as it takes to avoid disappointing yourself. And her daughter said, even you, Mom? And Glennon responded, especially me.
Wow, it's right.
Isn't that powerful?
Like a selfish.
Isn't that powerful? I know. And what Glennon goes on to say in that chapter is that if we live in a constant pattern of self-denial, then we end up resentful. And Dale Hawkins is a scientist who measured the frequencies of emotions, the toxicity of different emotions. Resentment is one of the most toxic. Resentment, bitterness, anger. So as far as caring for our bodies, we want to live avoiding feelings of resentment. So sometimes that's a way to check in of yourself. Like if I play this out, if I agree to this thing and play this out, am I going to grow resentment for this? Because I said yes to it. Everyone else said no. I took it on. I'm the chairman of the committee. I didn't want to be the chairman of the committee. You know, is this going to play out that it breeds resentment in me? And I think that's a very good way of managing your health. So yes, it's not saying be totally selfish. It's saying check in with the self-denial, right? Are you making yourself do something that it's going to make you resentful? And what we know about resentment is it ruins relationships. right? So you're saving your relationships if you're avoiding resentment. And I think that that's, like you were saying, that's the gift to the other people in our lives. That it feels selfish, but it actually shows up as you're happier, and then you're better to be around. And people are enjoying your presence. And then that gives you oxytocin and the love hormones that you need. And this is a positive cycle. So we all have to kind of weigh this stuff in our own lives. It's not easy. There's no magic spot at which you say, this is selfish and this is giving. But we all have to just explore it in ourselves. And there are seasons of life. There are seasons of life where we can give. And there's seasons of life where I gotta unplug and align with myself again. Then we get in a season where I give. And then I gotta come back. And so it's not a hard, fast rule the rest of your life. It's just checking in with yourself.
Hey, Ginger.
Yeah.
I think about, too, I was just thinking about, so we're a team. We're the children's ministry team, as well as our friend Kevin. And we maximize our strengths really well.
Yeah.
Because we're really aware of our weaknesses, especially me. Like where I was quick to, when I got hired, to say, here's all the things I suck at. Can you do that? Can you do that? So guess who will never make a spreadsheet?
Right.
Me. I have a degree in art. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, so we're constantly.
Exactly.
So it doesn't mean don't do the things.
That's right.
It means find out what you're wired to do, maybe even called to do.
Perfect.
And lean into that rather than I would be resentful every single day if I did
what they're
all
good
the
at.
logistics
That's right.
stuff that they are awesome at.
And they would be resentful that you don't let them do what they love.
Right.
Right?
Or that you suck at it.
And that you suck at it.
Oh, they're resentful. Let me tell you that.
That's awesome. That's so good.
It's never 50-50.
No, never. It comes and
Yeah.
goes.
Right.
That's right.
And you have to be comfortable with
That's
that.
right.
You have to be comfortable giving 80% sometimes.
Exactly.
And maybe just 30% sometimes.
That's right. I love that. I love that.
Was it Michelle Obama? Who
Yes.
recently talked about like their relationship and
Yes.
never 50-50 and
Like,
stuff. That's
yes,
interesting.
you're right, Stephanie. I think that's in her new book, The Light We Become, or is that in Becoming? Yes.
No, I don't think it's in the first one.
Okay. I think, yes, I know. I love when she writes about her relationship with Barack because it's so real. She's so honest.
But it takes the courage to have those conversations on the front end. And also I was thinking that
That's
sometimes courage comes from having a buddy system.
Yes.
Sometimes it's easier when you know something's going to be hard and you phone a friend, I guess,
Yes.
and say, I need help with this.
Oh, I love
I'm
that.
really struggling with this.
So
So that's where our pals come in.
Oh,
handy.
big time. I love that.
Yeah, and I find too, having a 22 and 27-year-old sons, that I have a lot more courage when I'm around them and their friends.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because that part of their brain is still, risk-taking is still
Exactly.
working.
Yep.
And so I feel like I want to just go forward. I have that energy when I'm around a lot of them.
Exactly. That's awesome. Oh, I love that. That's a gift you give yourself, too.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about the disappointing of everything you've mentioned, that one hits home the most.
Oh, yeah.
What I've realized is in this discussion is that when I have shown up authentically, most recently, and it's turned out that I've disappointed
Mm-hmm.
others, over time, if I can still stand
Yep.
for my agency, is that I think I am gaining, not that it was intended that way, but I'm seeing a sense of respect
Yes.
from the other person that I never expected that to be an outcome. It was just, I needed to be me.
Yeah, I love that. That is
So that
definitely
was-
a pattern I see too
Okay.
in clients who do the hard thing. It often garners respect.
And respect for myself.
And yourself, exactly.
Just
Both.
realize it, yeah.
Perfect, exactly. You didn't deny yourself yet again, so you can respect and trust yourself that you did the hard thing. And now they're respecting you. Yeah, I love that.
I wonder if part of it too, Ginger, is figuring out, like when you were talking about living intentionally and making a choice,
Yeah.
like as you're asking, well, am I disappointing someone? Like being really clear on your own values.
Exactly.
to be like, well, these are the 3 things I've decided are most important in my life.
Yes.
Does it uphold, like almost having like a filter that
Yes.
you can filter these questions through?
That's great, Brooke, because next month we'll talk about that. Because I was toying between courage and decision making and like which to go first. So that just confirms. We'll do that next month, and I'll bring a sheet of values, and we'll pick our like top 4, and it helps us make decisions. So we'll do that in April. I can't believe it's March today. We made it through January and February. We survived January and February in the Midwest. We did it. We lived through another winter. Okay, here when I was thinking about disappointing people, I looked through some of my client files real quick that I'd met with recently just to see what the themes were. Here were some scenarios. A desire to change my major in college, but dad will be disappointed. Right? This young man is a junior and has realized he doesn't want to go into business. He hates everything about business. He really wants to be a teacher. But that's going to mean more time and disappointing his dad, who's in business and thinks that, right? Okay. A longing to call off the wedding, but guests are planning on it. Family will be disappointed. I know. So think about the wedding. That's a big one.
We're gonna be glad to help.
What would you tell her? What would you tell her?
So like, how did that turn out? Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Drop the it.
If you have that feeling, run, right?
That's like choose your difficult, because that
Exactly.
there's the one that's going to be really hard and uncomfortable right now, but oh my god. I mean,
Exactly.
It's like labor and delivery versus breastfeeding. One is a day, the other is.
Awesome.
I will say my dad, before I got married, like here at church, like he came into the bridal room and he was like, just so you know, if you want to not do this. He did it for me and my sister. Like,
That's
it was
precious.
just like, it
That's
was his
really.
thing. And he was like, it's no problem, we'll still have a party, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
That
My
is
husband
so
was really late to the church, so he could have. It was a possibility. That was a precursor to a lifetime. But I do like when I tell that to like random friends, like if it comes up through the years, they're like, oh my god, that's like crazy. And I never thought it was, because that's your parents. You just know your parents, and you're like, oh, that's just their MO. But in a way, I think he was doing me a favor.
Huge gift. Oh my gosh, this girl would give anything for her dad to say that to her. That's beautiful.
Can your dad show up to her?
Yeah. Call your dad.
Is he available?
Yes. Adopt a dad.
Yeah, you also have to have the courage to tell someone who's asking you permission. You have to give courage.
That's right.
Because our son was one of those students.
Okay, yep.
He was in the middle of his junior year, an engineering student, doing pretty well, and was miserable.
Yeah.
And texted his dad in the middle of finals week, middle of that year, with screenshots of the natural resources classes at the university, and said, these have been the last 3 most miserable months of my life. Why didn't I know about this?
Oh.
And his dad, thankfully, says to him, then go figure it out.
Awesome.
And he's like, but I'm in the middle of my junior year. I've already spent 2.5 semesters of tuition money. He's like, you're only a junior. Go figure it out.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And he just got his master's in wildlife biology in December.
Cool. I love that. Oh, that's such a good story.
Yeah. But it took courage as parents to say, it's okay.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
Great parents.
I really feel bad for this woman though.
She's not going to do it.
Is it just jitters? Is it going to be a lifetime of disappointment?
No, I mean, hopefully she's not watching this video. She's going to get out of it.
Is she standing there going, well, it won't be that bad?
Oh
it's going to be, no, yes. She's trying, but we're coaching.
But that's a lot of people go through that.
Exactly.
That's not,
I'm so proud of her for being honest with me.
Yeah.
Because the momentum was going one way and I had a gut feeling. And so I just kind of asked her, like, is this what you want? Tears. So she's going to be liberated. So here's another one. Readiness to come out about my sexuality, but afraid of the look of disappointment in my parents' eyes. So do you live a life not true to yourself? No, so that's where don't disappoint yourself, right? In Glennon's words, you've got to live your life and not live for somebody else. See this child living for their parents. Yeah.
You know, I just wanted to, one thing I'm observing, so control is sort of what the disappointer becomes, the controller.
That's right. Exactly.
And,
very good.
And that is, that is a hard thing for me.
Yeah.
I fall into being controlled easily,
Yeah.
Because I don't want to disappoint.
Exactly.
So,
and that's not fair to you, right?
I know, but.
Yes.
But we didn't know this. I mean, I'm going to go back to what Judy was saying.
Yes.
In my generation, it's like, yeah, you did not disappoint.
Right.
And to this day, you do not disappoint.
They use the word respect as a weapon.
That's right.
Yeah,
Guilt
I
is
grew
a
up with
tool.
that.
That's right.
Guilt
so
is a
today,
And a lot of
yeah.
churches used it too.
And in 2023, that whole landscape has changed.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's like maybe what we're trying to negotiate and navigate and
Exactly.
accept.
That's right. That's right. 100%. That's why this is hard.
Well, and you're making assumptions about the response.
That's exactly right.
And you might find that actually your parents love you so much. Of course, they don't want you to marry that guy that you don't want to marry.
Exactly.
And then you get this beautiful moment.
That's right.
And it may not be that way. It
That's
could
right.
be the other way. But you're making all these assumptions about what other people are thinking. And
Totally.
you don't allow yourself the opportunity to have some rich conversation.
And and I know the parents of the person thinking about coming out, and I know it'll be loving. But it's just so scary, right? It will bond them more than they've ever been bonded.
Exactly.
Because I think this has been a wedge of like, you don't get me, you don't love me for who I am, but it hasn't been articulated. And so I think this will be the most beautiful relationship on the other side. Exactly, Susan. That's that leap of faith though, right? Like, it's hard to trust. So the last one, there were two. Wanting to tell the truth, but that's gonna hurt them or disappoint them. The other one is dreaming of this creative entrepreneurial project, but what if it doesn't, so first of all, telling people, they're gonna be like, you wanna do what? And she's got this beautiful artistic vision, but it's not serious, and she's not sure how she's going to make money, and it's going to disappoint her family. And right, we can relate to these. These are real life things. Okay, so your homework: practice disappointing someone. Yeah, look out, world. That's right. Here we come, girls. Here we come. Okay.
To me, it's an interesting, like a line to draw between the disappointing and the resentment. Like Jan, when you said that, like I think, especially for women, so often we are so scared to disappoint people. But then I wonder how quickly that is a straight line to the resentment on the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm going to show you a video real quick for our next tool. Kenyon helps me figure out how we're going to do this. Okay, Kenyon.
It wasn't Brooke's tech skills.
You might have to remind me.
No, I got this. Don't tell Brooke.
Kenyon, we did it. Okay. All right. Oh, is there sound? It's a rodeo. So this cowboy has to stay on for 8 seconds. Here we go. 8 seconds. And you hear the whistle? That's when he can get off. So he made it. Still going, Kenyon? Still going. Okay, we're going to turn the volume off. That might play the rest of the day, but
That would take a lot of courage.
yes. Okay. So I want us to use this cowboy. as inspiration that sometimes the hardest thing is the getting started and it's just the first 8 seconds, right? So there's a lot of different applications of this. There's a movie Kenyon and I were remembering called 8 Seconds.
I know there is.
It's a true story. What is his name? I'm blanking. Oh my gosh. He's a rodeo star. He was very famous.
He just died.
Yes.
Didn't he? He was in the show, that series.
Yes.
With the kid, Beverly Hills 90210.
Yes. Luke Perry. Luke Perry?
Luke Perry.
Perry is the
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah.
That's right. Luke Perry is the actor.
I know what movie you're talking about.
And 8 Seconds is a rodeo movie. It's good. It's a great movie. I grew up at rodeos. My dad was a rodeo announcer. And that's a real life rodeo in the Flint Hills of Kansas, the first weekend of June, if you want to go to a rodeo. It's 2 hours away.
It is. I just told her my in-laws have been trying to get us to go to that rodeo.
It's a fun rodeo. We go every year. Look for me, Brooke, or I'll look for you. So 8 Seconds is this idea of if he can hang on for 8 seconds, so can we. So the way that I encourage you to kind of apply this, so that's a visual image to just help yourself remember. But if you're about to give up on something, see if you can go 8 seconds longer, right? If you're about to say something you're going to regret, see if you can hold off for 8 seconds. Right? Give yourself a pause. But this 8 second thing, so it kind of dawned on me sitting at the rodeo, and I think I had a class coming up or something that I was going to use it in. But then I started just looking at 8 seconds is really short, but it's not when you're scared, right? Like it feels like an eternity to him. But it's a really interesting thing to play with your brain. If you're overwhelmed, breathe in for 8 seconds and out for 8 seconds. This 8 seconds thing just was really easy to kind of stick in my brain. I do this if I'm about to eat yet another piece of cake, right? Like, can I put that off for 8 seconds? And that's an amazing, like any kind of urge you get to do something that you might regret. Could I put it off for 8 seconds? And then what you find is I could do it 8 more seconds. I could do it 8 more seconds. And so urge control is a very interesting one with this, if that's something that challenges you. You also, in that 8 seconds, if you have an urge to fire back the email or fire back the text, or right, that 8 seconds gives you time to just think, one, what am I about to do, but why am I doing it? What needs to be addressed in me that I'm reacting so quickly? So it's just kind of giving yourself a pause. I also think I will use this if I have to sit down and pay bills, which I absolutely hate doing, and I get super snappy at everyone when I do it. So like a task, I will be like, just take 8 seconds and get the pile, and then take 8 seconds and open the envelopes, and then right? And that's working with my brain of those baby steps of like, this doesn't have to be an overwhelming task. Break it into kind of chunks, and this just kind of sticks in my brain to remember. What's coming to you with this one that you could do?
I think bill paying does not take as long when you do that.
Yes, exactly. Right? It's the putting it off that's the problem. So the courage to tackle something you're dreading, that's a way to build our courage muscle. And it's sending your brain a message of, this isn't so bad. I was making a huge deal out of this, which is our next
I have a
practice. Yes, Judy.
Too. You know how somebody cut you off and
yes.
She always had the urge to kind of flip them off. But now she
is this really you, Judy? No.
No one she knows in this
right, and no one you know in this room.
I used to do it until I'm afraid of getting shot.
That
is true. But that was before I was 24.
Okay, yes. Impulsive.
But, so she just kills me because when this happens to her, she takes that deep breath.
Yeah.
And then she says very calmly, "You're welcome."
Oh, I love that. That's so great. You're welcome. That's a great tool.
My mom used to, when people would honk at her, she would turn around and wave and it really worked.
I love it. Okay, we're not going to use those today. Those are good. Okay, this next one is kind of this idea of like the bill paying and the dread. But I'm going to use the example of a client who had broken up with a long-term boyfriend, devastated. And 2 years later, was going to be going to a friend's wedding and see him for the first time. And the anxiety that was coming up in her was monstrous, right? Seeing him at this wedding was this huge, scary monster in her brain. And it was triggering all kinds of old anxiety and old emotions, and maybe I'm not over him and all this stuff. Then she had the fear of what if he brings a date, and what if I find out they're engaged, and it went on and on. So this tool helped her because she was creating this wedding is a monster for her. It's gonna be horrible, horrible. And so we turned it into, I was like, yes, that all sounds horrible. However, it's a little few seconds of awkward and horrible, right? And you're giving it power. You're giving him all this power to crush you and ruin that night. And it's ruining months leading up to this wedding. Why are we giving this guy so much power over you? So let's shift the power and just make him a little mosquito at the wedding. It's annoying to see him. He's gonna bite me. It's gonna be a few seconds of pain to see him and encounter him and be like, oh, I'm glad you're happy, huh? Right? Squash that mosquito. Right? Exactly. Swat him. So, but it helped her brain. Her brain like settled down. Of like, oh, this is just a little annoyance.
Bring a rolled up newspaper.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't want to do it. I have to face him. It's an annoyance instead of a monster. And I'm gonna, so we literally rehearsed, okay, what if you see him in the church? What are you gonna do? What if you see him at the reception? What are you gonna do? What are your first words gonna be? And we rehearsed all of this. And by the time she went to the wedding, it was really no big deal. Like, I'm so ready for this. And afterwards she was like, oh my gosh, we didn't even talk. Like we went, okay, and that was it. So all of this fear, all this fear and dread was monstrous to her. Sleepless nights, right? We all do this. We all have our thing that we do this with. So the imagery is just to help your brain remember, like, it's not easy. Yes, this is a hard thing. A mosquito bite stinks. But we can survive it. And it's a tiny, tiny thing, really. I'm making it a much bigger thing than it actually is. Can you think of something in your life that might be a monster, but it's really a mosquito? Everything.
I am the champion of monsterizing mosquitoes. I mean, if there were a gold medal in that, I would have the biggest. I would not be able to stand up straight.
I love it.
Oh, I'm really good at that. Really.
Can you let that go?
Yep, can you change
well,
it?
that's why I come to Ginger every month. That's why I'm here now, because that's a work in progress.
Yeah. This one is one of my favorite on courage because I do this. Like, I create this big power out there that I'm scared of. Right? And then I have to like rein it back in and like, really?
Yeah.
Really? So it's awkward, or so it's a few hard seconds. It's hard 8 seconds. But I can handle that. And then it's like my brain really shifts. But I have to do this one a lot with myself. So I'm with you, Laura.
Over life, I have observed and experienced that a monster can be when there has been a death, a young death, and you arrive at that age, or another, there are so many examples, and getting past that age and thinking, this could happen to me. Why won't it happen to me? What makes me any better than that person?
Oh, you're outliving them.
Yes. Now, to me, I have observed and have experienced that as a monster.
Yeah.
You know.
Because it's like a number that means something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, look at the power we're giving that number.
I agree.
Yeah.
In theory.
Exactly. Exactly. We can get it. Yes. Cognitively, we understand it, but moving it down into our bodies and a belief is different. Yeah.
Yeah, and not having that thought bugging you.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe it's the thought that feels monstrous, but the thought is really, it stings when I think about that. It stings about the age they were and I'm there. But that sting is kind of mosquito-like unless I keep replaying it and saying, oh my gosh, they were 66 and I'm 66 and this is, and I see that in our family. We had we had young deaths too. And I've watched people do that. Like, she was 49. You know, and you're right. That's such a good example. We do that. And we have to just, again, call ourselves out on the self-torture we're creating with that. Right? If I keep replaying that story, this is just amping up my heart rate, creating cortisol and adrenaline in my body. I'm really torturing myself with that thought. And without that thought, if I didn't pay attention to that number, I would never have that stress response. Right? But because I'm paying attention to that number, that age, I'm creating the stress response in my body. And that kind of stuff is so hard in the moment to do. Like, we can sit here and talk about it because we're not triggered. But when we get triggered, it's very hard to hold on to that cerebral knowledge.
You know what would feel good? This is a really good image in my mind. I want to give everybody a really darling fly swatter with like a cute bow on it, and then like a pad of Post-its or something, and you write down whatever the number is or the thought, and then you just whack it. I like that fly swatter, and then you can just go on like, okay, this is really bothering me. It's buzzing around me. I can't. Whack, and then you just go on with like that.
It's
that
awesome.
Awareness though of hold it. What is this that's making me have all this? Where I hear something, I feel something, something's biting me. Oh, bam! And then once you, I mean, it's kind of gruesome, but once you smack that mosquito and kill it, it's done.
It's done.
Dad, Mom's hitting Post-its again.
Well,
if you didn't hear that's awesome.
But I mean, that image in my mind is very, very helpful because it's physical and it's concrete.
Do it, Laura. I love it.
Extinguishing something that is bugging you so much.
Good. I didn't make the connection to bugging you.
Yeah, right?
Laura, you're on fire today. Yes. Merchandise. I see it.
Yes. I mean, well, seriously.
Stickers.
Wouldn't that feel good?
Yes.
Exercise.
It's so good.
I would get a lot of exercise.
So here are 3 little challenges for you with monster and mosquito. Maybe these apply. Making a doctor's appointment.
Oh boy.
That's just a little mosquito. Just call and get it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Then go. But those I see people resist and resist and resist. A tough conversation. Meg said earlier. Have the conversation. You're making it into a monster. What if it's just a little mosquito? What if it's just a few moments and then they end up respecting you more because of it? Right? A big project you're putting off, like maybe a home project or something, you're making this huge thing like I need 5 days. And what if you just did a shelf?
Start it,
right? So
that's my monster, is getting started.
Getting started.
I just picture all the all the stuff.
Isn't there
if
a
I just get
metaphor?
started, it goes fine.
Well, I do have the next one.
Eating an elephant.
Oh, yes.
One bite at a time. Yeah.
One bite at a time, that's
Yeah.
right. We're going to use a mountain climb also for a metaphor.
See, my parents used to tell me, let's not make a mountain out of it.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking
It's like,
about
that's
that.
probably my age, but that's what I remember my parents.
Exactly.
saying to
Mountain
me.
out of a molehill. That's it. That's a monster and a mosquito, right? All those are timeless adages because they're universal problems we all have. That's why those things stick around. So when you climb Mount Everest, which is like getting started, you're looking at the whole mountain. You're not going to do it quickly, and you're not going to do it in a day. And it looks impossible. But the thing with mountain climbing is you stop at camps along the way, and you get used to the new altitude. And you just tell yourself, I'm going from base camp to camp 1, right? I'm climbing the mountain, but I'm breaking it down into segments. And this is where we have to apply this analogy into our own lives of like, what is segment 1? If I was going to start this, where the first climb is from here to where? Then I'm going to take a break. And I'm going to let my brain settle down because that was hard and scary. And I'm going to figure out what the next camp will be. And I'm going to climb a little bit more. And I'm going to take a break. Because we can't, this is brain management. again, our brain freaks out when there's major change because its job is to keep you safe, and that feels super unsafe. So if we're trying to climb a mountain, we got to work with our brain to say, you know what, we're just going here to here. That's all.
Perfectionists have a really hard time with that.
They do.
Amen.
Yeah, perfectionist
They do.
paralysis sets in because all you can see is the mountain.
That's
You
right.
cannot break it into smaller pieces.
That's right.
And oftentimes, if you can actually get yourself there to start, it is so much less than what your brain created.
Exactly. It's the starting. Often, it's just the starting.
Yeah.
Right? The peel off the Band-Aid. All those analogies.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like I have to have a huge block of time to start something because I don't want to take that break.
Yeah, I know.
I think if I take that break, then I won't get back to it.
So, Anne, do you ever start it when you have that idea?
I do.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
you know, I put it off, and then I
You do
make
tackle
myself
it. That's good.
tackle it.
That's good. Because sometimes if we say we need all this time, then we never start because all that time never presents itself.
Yeah.
Right? We know in life. So that's good. Yeah, it's just the deciding to tackle
Just
it.
making yourself
Deciding to
get
be
going.
happy. Yeah. That's right. That's right. So what project could you give us as an example where base camps would help you? This idea of like, I'm going to go a little bit and I'm going to stop. I'm going to go a little bit more. I'm going to stop.
Taxes.
Taxes. That's right. Doing your taxes. I'm going to do a little bit. Yeah.
My plan is to digitize all of the pictures.
Oh,
So my parents,
Yes,
I have both
Sharon.
such grandparents,
Yes.
and I have 6 tubs. Big Rubbermaid.
Yes.
Plus
They
their
got that same thing.
kid stuff. So I decided finally that I would start when I met my husband and go, instead of doing all that old stuff.
Oh. Yes.
So I finally got started with that. So now I got a place to start.
That's great.
And I can do so many years at a time. And
That's such a good
that old
example.
stuff I still have. Because it goes back into the 30s.
Oh, wow. That is a great example of so overwhelmed. But then you're
That's what I said.
chunking it out. That's awesome, Sharon. I need that inspiration for my own photo projects.
I at least moved mine off the ping pong table.
Camp 1. You're resting at Camp 1.
I'm rested.
That's right. Just camp out a while.
We've played a lot of ping pong since Camp 1 began.
I love it.
What about decluttering
Yes.
or cleaning the garage?
I was just going to say that one, yeah.
Such a good garage. Like, yeah, I read, Casey, you guys might know it, How to Keep House While Drowning. Casey, what's her name? I'll look it up.
I know,
Or
but I know
somebody-
Marie what's
Kondo.
She quit.
Yes, Marie Kondo.
She quit?
After her third kid, she decided it's not
Yeah,
feasible.
that's right. Oh my gosh.
Really? Yeah. What's that? You'll need a slide for that one.
I know. I love that she gave it up. And that she admitted giving it up. Because that's what, a lot of us would just stay silent, like, I'm secretly giving this up.
Yeah, there's a
But
whole
she
lot of
public-
validation there.
Yes, and there was a whole lot of validation, and people love her even more.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did she give up?
So the tidying woman, Marie Kondo, that would say, like, does this spark joy? If not, get rid of it. She now has 3 children, and so she made a public statement, I'm giving all that up.
It can't be done.
It can't be, you can't be tidy and have children. And so young moms are just loving it, because they're like, finally, okay, some reality.
She helps me. I mean, I love that.
I know.
I'll look at
She-
something and
I
think,
know.
that doesn't bring me joy anymore.
Right.
Yes.
Not very often, but occasionally.
Yes. Yes. So this author, Casey, I'm going to get her name for you. But the book it's a really tiny book. It's like $6 on Amazon, but it's Keep House While Drowning, How to Keep House While Drowning. She, it was a young mom struggling, and she was like, okay, I want to help young moms who are overwhelmed with all the things. So one of the things when she tackles a room is like, so she talks about her kids' rooms, and this is so relevant having teenagers. But first, get all the dishes and the cups out of the room. Just do that, right? That'd be base camp 1. Then get all the trash out of the room. And then maybe pick up shoes, just shoes. And then clothes. But it could work on your garage too, right? Like the idea is categorize, like I'm just doing this. I'm just moving it off the ping pong table. And your brain will actually help you be successful when it's not so overwhelmed. Your brain calms down when you're like, oh, we're just doing shoes today? Perfect, we can do that. We're just doing cups and glasses today and taking them to the dishwasher? We can do that. Then it's not the whole room.
And sometimes I find too that once you start, you break it down and you get going, you then sometimes are able to admit in the process, okay, I don't have to do this, this, and this for this project. And you let things go along the journey.
That's right, Kim.
Because your perfection brain will create this huge project you have to do perfectly. And oftentimes the journey in life is not going to be perfect every step of the way. So you learn things along the way.
Exactly, that's so good.
Ginger, her name's Casey Davis.
Thank you, Casey Davis. Yes, I highly recommend that. I think that she has attention deficit disorder, and she just wrote that book for people that were overwhelmed, and it's beautiful, and it's simple, and it's one that you could pull out when you're overwhelmed. Okay, the last one for today is asking God, when you need courage, help me see this differently. I'm scared. I'm very, very scared. God, help me see this differently. Is there a different way to see this? And see what comes. It's a beautiful prayer. It's simple. It's just simply asking one question. Can I see this differently? Help me see this differently. And then sit in silence, and almost always some perspective comes. Because we're scared human beings. And it's hard to be here in a student in human school, as we've talked about. Right? We're new at this. We're new at this, and it's a scary world. And it seems to be getting scarier in our lifetime. And so when you are watching the news, when you are overwhelmed, when you are so afraid of what's coming, this prayer can help a lot of just, God, help me see this differently. And I think just the art of prayer calms us, slows our heart rate. We feel we're connected to something bigger than us. We feel less alone in the world. And from that, I think we get perspective and maybe courage. And so these tools are super helpful to help our brain learn and build the muscle. But then there's a point at which you decide what you're going to do next and how you're going to do it. And that it's not so scary and you're not alone. And we have everyone in this room to help each other and encourage each other through it. So finding courage doesn't have to be so hard.
I read something this week in a book by a man named Abraham Joshua Heschel. He's a rabbi.
Yes,
but
I love him.
this line just stuck out to me, and it was, evil is never the climax of history. Redemption will come.
Evil is never the
climax of history. Redemption will come.
Which is the Jesus story too, right? A rabbi is saying that.
Right.
And then as Christians,
and that's the hope we live in. And
yes.
I think sometimes that's what we have in the midst of something.
Evil
and
is never.
We don't always get to see the redemption, but often we do.
That's right. Oh, Susan, that's beautiful. Heschel's a good one to follow. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
And have you ever come across people that just don't have, I mean, it's in them that they don't have that hope. I mean, I just live with the glass half full.
Yes.
And that's just how I live. So I always have, I feel like pretty much I always have hope. But I run across people that just aren't wired that way.
That's right.
And I feel really sorry for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you help somebody like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, trauma survivors struggle with finding hope sometimes because they're afraid. So I had hope, and then this horrible thing happened. And so I'm afraid to have hope because another horrible thing might happen. You see that pattern a lot in our brains. The fear of being disappointed. If I have hope, if I hope for a cure and lose them anyway, then was I wrong or disappointed? Or, it's scary to have hope sometimes because it doesn't feel like a sure thing. And so a lot of brains struggle with finding hope. I've been with people where it's hard to conjure up hope, right? All these things are wrong. I had a woman who had lost her job, didn't have the internet, poverty-stricken. You can't get a job without the internet, no cell phone, car breaking down. Like, I literally was like, okay, where's the hope? Children that wouldn't speak to her, totally alone in the world. And so there are times where it feels like not enough to say God is with you, right? Well, show me. And so you're right, and sometimes conjuring up hope can be really, really hard when we're getting walloped and walloped and walloped again. So yeah.
Barack Obama wrote a whole book on that, The Audacity of Hope.
That's right.
Yeah.
So good. I haven't read that. I want to read that. I'm glad you reminded us of that. Yeah.